On behalf of AIM Alumni Association of India and Federation of AIM Alumni Associations Inc. FAIM, a very good evening to everyone. After a successful run of around 36 webinars, most of them back to back during the start of the pandemic times, we have not brought to you a unique value proposition in the form of AIM Entrepreneur Series. The objective of this series is to bring together AIM alumni entrepreneurs of all nationalities and showcase their achievements on an alumni platform. At AIM, during the 1990s and early 2000s, we did study entrepreneurship as a course subject, and it was taught to us by Professor Ed Morato. Professor Ed Morato has sent a message today to all of us. Entrepreneurship should be ingrained in the DNA of every AIM alumni. I am unable to join the webinar today. My best wishes for the webinar series success. Will definitely join the next one. The above is not a message, but a blessing from our entrepreneurship guru. We would like to thank our other AIM gurus for attending this webinar today and seek their good wishes and blessings for the success of this webinar series too. Professor Jumbo and Professor Frankie Roman. I also would like to acknowledge the presence of FAIM country chapter heads, Mr. Bert Manabat, Philippines, Mr. Anwar Chaudhary, Bangladesh, Dr. Kartika Antono, Indonesia, and Mr. Sumit of Thailand. The topic for today, the food space industry, fresh farm produce to packaged products. To speak on the same, we have amidst us two AIM entrepreneurs, Apurva Anand, MBA 2012, and Parth Birendra, MBA 2015. Their profile has already been shared with all of you earlier. We are also very fortunate to have amidst us senior alumnus George Cohort, MBM 93. George is Senior Vice President Pepsico Worldwide and based in New York. Today it's Sunday and it's 6 a.m. local time in NYC. Thanks a lot, George, for your commitment to the alumni cause. Deeply appreciate. George will be the moderator for the session today. Now, over to you, Apurva Anand, for your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikhil. Thank you so much for the introduction. So I would just share. Hello, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
So hello everyone. I'm Apurva. So I'll just talk about what I did post AIM. So I belong to a small city called Jamshedpur. This is basically the birthplace of the Tata brand. And the usual narrative is that people from small cities have big dreams. And I had actually a very small dream of someday opening my own health food restaurant when I grow up. So post AIM, I came back to India, and whatever savings I had, this time around, I thought that, before I go back to work, first thing I should do is that I wanted to go and live that dream. And I started my own venture in the health food space. So basically, I set up my first restaurant. It was called Sehat Express. Sehat in English means health. So it was a health food restaurant wherein we were preparing all healthy, all Indian recipes and presenting it in a novel, easy to go format. So we had the first restaurant. We opened it in just after passing out of AIM. In a couple of months, we were able to, the concept was widely appreciated in Gurgaon. And we were able to open one more restaurant a couple of months later, and then one more, and then one more. And however, there was one challenge that, these are photos from basically I just collated all these photos from my days of my first venture. So one of this is my customer. This is a typical Indian dish that we made. This is basically a dish. We wanted to make it like momos, and it was called dal potli. This is a idli sambar. We wanted to make it very easy and convenient for people. So we made cocktail idli and sambar in a cup So it was very easy for people to have it on the go. This was the kind of menu that we had, and this was one of the campaigns that worked very well for us. This was basically free biryani Mahabharat style. So it was that people can order the biryani, our person will take the biryani to them, and then at that point of time they will be given a dice, and if they roll the dice and they get the number that they called out for, they will get the biryani for free. So this campaign worked very well for us then. And towards the 8th month of our operations, we were scaling very well, but I was really struggling with the shelf life of the food products. So typically health food products have very less shelf life. So I started retailing my products. I started selling my products across different retail outlets. And during one of those market visits, I met a gentleman who was planning to launch a brand in the same space on similar lines. And I eventually went on board and joined the team there. And the company was called Hector Beverages. And we had a very modest beginning from a 3 BHK house in Gurgaon. And I was one of the early members of the brand Paperboat. So I launched Paperboat in Delhi NCR as the general sales manager. Then eventually I was promoted to a regional role. And in my last role, I was heading the pan-India sales and operations for the brand. And this is some photos from the brand. This is basically the brand. So as you can see, Amras, Panna, Jaljeera, these are typically traditional Indian products that were packaged and sold and distributed across stores. So in the 3 years time, the brand became a household name and today is widely available across the country. So post this, India, there was a situation, there was a demonetization in Indian market, and fintech was booming at this point of time. And I went and joined Mobikwik to head their pan-India operations for merchant onboarding. So in a span of 8 months, we were able to onboard around 1.5 million merchants here. And I had a great stint. And by the end of the stint, I went and joined Coca-Cola. This time, Coke was basically wanted to launch all their premium portfolios that are available globally in the Indian market. So these were the products: Monster energy drink, Minute Maid smoothie, Smart Water, and the Diet Coke, the Coke Zero, Schweppes. So these were the brands that we started launching in the Indian market. Maybe a couple of things we were able to do right during this stint, and my contributions were, sort of appreciated and acknowledged. And I was selected by the CEO for Inspire the Extraordinary Award. And I was very high on success. I had just come back to India after this trip, and I decided I had with a group of 3 friends, we launched this brand BRB. This is basically a new category. You would have heard about the fried chips, fried snacks that are available in the market. There have been a lot of products in the baked category. And this is basically not baked, not fried. These products are popped. And this technology is not available in India anywhere. In fact, to start with, we are also making the products right now in Belgium, sourcing some materials from the US, making the products in Belgium, and then managing the sales and distribution part in the Indian market in Delhi NCR primarily to start with. The long-term plan is to set up our India manufacturing, get this technology to India, and then start the manufacturing in India and then go national. So, Nikhil, when we discussed that, we have to talk about this, my journey, I thought I will just share 2 learnings with all of you. So I think one learning with what has worked for me, and I can directly relate it to my experience at AIM, is to, solving problems versus knowing what to solve. So in new businesses, in startups, typically, where you have finite money, you have limited resources, and you, at this point of time, what has really worked for me is that whenever you get a problem, you don't really try to solve it immediately. You figure out what are the problems, and you try to prioritize the problems, and you pick the most important problem and solve that. So this has, if I have to sort of join the dots, I would say that I was able to do some of these things in my stint, which actually helped me to have some decent amount of success. And what has not worked for me, if I talk about my previous venture and my current venture, is that, a lot of times we plan for failure. Like you have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan for failure. What if something doesn't work? What if something goes wrong? What if something doesn't go the way we had planned? However, even with my first venture and with this venture, what I have also seen is that more than that, as an entrepreneur, it's also important that you plan for success. What if your product actually clicks? What if your product is well appreciated by the market, by the consumers? So how do you scale it from there? So I think this is something that is I've been guilty of committing this mistake twice, but I had reached out, and we are still trying to start the India operation soon with our current venture also. And so I thought these two learnings will be very helpful for the community. And over to you, George. Thank you.
Hey, Apurva, that's awesome. I mean, just the taking off on what Professor Morato has said, right? It's having this in your DNA is critical for every M grad, and you're kind of walking that. It seems like even before you went to AM, or you always seem to have that in your DNA, and I can see you've just out of campus 7 years, and just seeing the stuff that you've done in that short time just shows that it's deep in your DNA. So I look at it from two places. The first is this what keeps you going. So if someone was, how do you get that next idea, and how do you stay committed to it? And why did you leave those ideas? Like some of those ideas seems like you started it and then you left Hector and you went somewhere else. So how does your mind work? I'm looking at it from a DNA perspective of being an entrepreneur. What inspires you, and what gets you bored, and how did you make the moves that you've made? What were the triggers that made you make the moves that you made?
So I think one of the things that has motivated me is to see the success of global companies in a very short span of time. You talk about Google, you see Uber, and you see the likes, the technology companies, and the other companies also. There are companies which have taken a very long, it used to take long time for gestation, but the new age companies typically are able to do the same kind of, or attain a global scale in a very short span of time. So that has been one of my motivations to maybe try and be part of a team that can build something in a very short frame. So that really keeps me going. And I think given the way the world has evolved and the infrastructure that is available, so I think so that is one of my motivations.
Yeah, and is there anything that makes you, like, if you don't find what you're going and you look for the next idea, what is the trigger, and what's the thing that takes you to something else? Or is it, would you play with the multiple set of ideas at the same time? Like you have 4 more ideas in your mind that you're waiting to get done?
No, not really. I think one of the things that, that, for example, what I've written here is that what has not worked is basically how do you plan for success, and timing is a very important factor. And these external timings and external environment is something that is not in our control. So for example, something like a demonetization, if Paytm was not prepared, or if Mobikwik was not prepared, so they wouldn't have been able to make the most of the situation. So the important thing here is it's not in our hands. It is basically the external environment. So as an entrepreneur, you need to adjust and recalibrate yourself to the external environment, more than your internal aspirations.
Just now getting onto the business side, how do I've obviously lived in the sheltered corporate side. And I'm trying to think of how do you look at this idea of the new company? How do you recognize, like, this is an idea that I can make a business from, or this is just another idea? In your mind, what is the thinking? What is the mental calculations that you do and say, I could make a business out of this, and therefore I'm going to take the plunge, versus ideas that I don't think I can make a business out of that? What filters do you have to make those calls?
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost important thing is the size of the industry. And that is a very critical factor in evaluating a business idea. So for example, if you look at the snacks segment, it is typically what we had last heard was about 70,000, 80,000 crore size of the market, was 70, 80,000 crores just in India itself. And so that was one factor which goes on in our head. Secondly, the growth of the sub-segment. So for example, if you are trying to create another market, a sub-industry inside a bigger industry, which is like this pop technology, what has been the growth of that sub-industry in a different market? So for example, pop chips has had a great success story in the US. And that is what we are trying to replicate in the Indian market. So that is one very important factor. And the second most important thing is that to have the right set of co-founders, to have the right set of co-founding team, because we have 3 partners in this business, and there's a beer brand by the name of Bira 91. So they had co-founded that beer brand prior to, they were basically ex-co-founders of the beer brand Bira. And so sort of everything came together that way, that we were able to form a good team, and there was a market opportunity. And then we reached out to investors, and there were people who liked the team, who liked the idea, and who wanted to invest.
And from a timing perspective, to get this coalition going and get this idea going, that happened while you were at Coke, or it moved on? You left and came out after that. Just to understand the timing, how long was it from idea to getting the funding, getting the money, and saying that we've got a company going?
So I think once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. So when I did my first venture, you typically are known to that set of people, and you keep engaging at times for different use, for some help, something, and you stay in those kind of conversations. So there were multiple ideas that were coming forth, and there were people who wanted to discuss. This was an idea that we discussed for about 6-7 months. And it took a lot of discussions, debates, thinking, working. Who are the kind of investors? What are the kind of investment that we can get? What is the requirement? What is the short-term requirement? What is the long-term plan? So a lot of brainstorming went there. And once we were able to sort of narrow down on these critical aspects, that's when we decided to actually go ahead with the idea. So, yeah.
I think you made, as we talk about this more, I think you made some huge points around, the DNA of the entrepreneur, the energy that, a person needs to have for the idea. And I think this critical thing of you're working with a set of people, and that people interaction, it's a spiral that works in your favor, because you guys are connected, and connections always bring out ideas and bring out support that enable this whole space.
Yeah.
Apurva, very inspiring. Just hold on. We'll have some more questions after Parth's session. But thank you for taking the time to share this with the group. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, George. Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
All right, Parth, I'll pass it straight on to you, and we'll get the questions after that. If that's okay, you can share your screen.
Absolutely, George. Thank you so much. Am I audible? I'll just check.
Yes, you are.
Perfect. Let me know when you can see the screen, and I'll just dive right into it.
The screen is okay.
All right. Perfect. So first of all, thank you so much, everyone, for having me here, and a very inspirational journey that Apurva has just shared here with everyone. There's a lot of inputs that we could take up from his story in our startup journey, which is fairly younger as compared to what he has been doing. I'll just dive right into it in the interest of time. So I run the organization called Happy Nature. I'm the co-founder along one of my best friends. We started this company 2 years back. The clean and simple agenda of starting this brand was cheat free, farm fresh daily consumables. So that is the prime idea behind starting it. A little bit before I dive into what exactly we are doing here, I'll just give you a brief background of who I am and what I have done so far. So prior to joining AIM, I've completed my engineering degree in computer science, and I worked as an IT consultant with Ernst & Young. So I had a consulting background before I joined AIM, and post which I got exposed to so many different kind of industries. I did my internship with Emerson, got into marketing and sales, tried my hand at various international business competitions, which gave me an idea of how you can formulate a business, and eventually it culminated into me joining Accenture as a management consultant back in Philippines again. My journey with Accenture continued for 5 to 6 years. 5 years to be more precise. And after working with Accenture in multiple locations across Southeast Asia, I finally moved to Singapore with PwC. Now, sitting there, I realized that while I was making strategies and process mapping and process designs for various organizations, I had that unsatiable hunger within me to basically own something of my own. And that ownership of execution is what I was missing in this whole process. So now, how do I get that? I mean, there was nothing wrong with what I was doing. I was in a very comfortable job. There was no trigger as such of leaving it and going for the plunge. But I realized that I had an opportunity in front of me, and if you see an opportunity, you either go all in or you sit back and enjoy your drink. So I took the plunge, went all in for it. I left my job, just 3 months into joining PwC, and started my own venture, which has been going on for quite some time. So what are we trying to sell here is quality assurance. Now, we realize that in the market of daily consumables, there are so many people who are looking for genuine products, but there is no way to actually go and physically verify them. With our credentials, with our background, and with the quality assurance protocols that we have been implementing across various industries, we felt that we were able to become a brand that could certify that to our customers. And we picked up the very basic of products. So we started our research around water, drinking water, but we realized that milk is more of a product with a little bit of more fun and enthusiasm, and because that is what we wanted to get done. We wanted to get our hands dirty and dive right into the sales and marketing of things. So we wanted to get hands-on with our products. We didn't want to go in for a shared economy or a concept that might materialize. We wanted to sell something which we made and we created. The biggest challenge was, why would anyone want to buy a product of Happy Nature? Now, this quote really inspired us. Like, when we thought of a product, we started off the company as Happy Moo. Happy Moo doesn't mean anything. Moo is the sound that the cow makes. And when we started with milk, we didn't have any background or any credentials to justify that we were producing or getting the facilities in place to produce the best quality of milk available in the market. And there are multiple players. India is the largest producer of milk across the world, and we consume the most as well. So now this is an already saturated market. But the interesting thing was, the market was 70% unorganized. So we felt that in the unorganized sector, where there were individual farmers who were distributing milk around on their bicycles in the utmost weird ways, we felt that there was an opportunity to get into that chaos and see if we can find some reason to it. So when we realized that starting a brand is a task in itself, why would people start trusting it? We felt that milk is a commodity that will get our foot in the door. So if a person is trusting me to provide milk to their family, for their kids to be drinking the milk of my brand, I would be able to scale up my product portfolio much faster and get that trust going. Now, this was a big bet. We didn't know anything about it. We didn't have any market research to support it, but we just had a knack of doing things, and that's what AIM has taught us, right? So as I said, we were both management consultants, me and my co-founder, developed a need for ownership. research and research was all we were doing as consultants. So we did our background research on various industries and narrowed down on this. And we wanted that thrill of executing our strategy to the finish. Just didn't want to end up showing presentations and waiting 5 years to actually see the results. So how it all started, the journey, right? So when I started on October 24th, 2018, we started with 24 liters of milk on day 0 with 0 customers. And this picture is me and my co-founder on one very fine morning, 6 a.m. We were driving around in the SUV with a crate of bottles, trying to catch any morning walker, any school going children with their parents, kids, moms, anyone, just explain why we were standing there and why we were making an effort for them to be getting a better product. So that was one of our critical tasks. It started at 4 a.m. in the morning because people want to have their fresh glass of milk or their hot coffee before they start their day. And there was no compromise on that. So we figured that none of the logistics partners would be able to help us. So we established our own logistics team. And since our startup is bootstrapped, we didn't do the research of finding an investor or selling our idea before we dived into it. We were conscious and short on cash. So we didn't want to overspend. We had very limited resources that we were trying to eat out of. Now, our work routine started at 4 a.m. with the delivery boys coming in. And when you're coming up from a corporate background, coming down to talking and hiring delivery boys who are probably most of them not even going to school, very energetic but unreliable, to say the least. They would show up on days, they wouldn't on some days. If there is a rainy day, they might not be interested in going out to deliver. So to get them motivated, to get them in that team or in that mode, you as an entrepreneur have that drive because it's your product, it's your brand. You see, you get the happiness when someone is buying that product. But to translate that into your team was one of our biggest challenge. And to do that, we felt that being there on the ground with them really made a lot of sense. So we would always be there. If it was raining, we would definitely be out there standing with those guys, telling them, if you don't go, I will go. So make a choice there and pray that the bottles don't break. So we were doing a very premium, fragile product. The milk in India is usually circulated around in plastic polys, which we felt would not be very premium for us to go into. And that is why we started with milk bottle. This industry is very nascent. It's just starting to grow. We are really very few players. I have 5 or 6 players in Delhi NCR who are doing this on a large scale. But it has a lot of logistics involved. It has a lot of operational challenges to it. Now, what we figured was there is a very important aspect of this whole concept of home delivery or doorstep delivery, where we felt the customer needed to be, very much appreciated or delighted, to say the least. Now, with that in mind, having to sell a premium product, monthly budget of a person is the biggest challenge. Now, I'm not selling a product that you buy once in a month or twice in a month, not even once a week. You buy it daily. You buy 2 or 3 units of my product daily. That upsets your daily routine. That upsets your daily budget, monthly budget. So now getting them to understand that spending this 300 or 400 rupees worth of money on enhancing the quality of a product that they have been using for ages, like they have grown drinking the kind of milk that they're getting right now. Why should they switch to a more expensive premium brand just because I'm telling them to? That was one of our biggest challenge. And we felt that customer delight played a huge role. And now, we made sure that we were listening to the customer all the time. We had our ears to the ground every step of the way. We used to get notifications from the customers daily. We used to listen to their grievances, try to solve it as and when it is coming up. And well, that is how we began. We started with milk and tried to figure out what other products can be added into the mix. Now we have a product folio of about 10 products, but milk was our daily consumable. So now we are doing into gourmet category. We are going into gourmet cheese. We're going into specialized products which are not available outside. We have dairy as a primary product, which is milk, which is our foot in the door or the holder. We have non-dairy category as well, which is bread. And now this is something that we developed around. We started developing a mechanism where we were going farm to table in 7 days. So we would go to a farmer, get our sourcing done, launch the brand, and get the product out in 7 days. What I felt that we did right was we maintained the utmost level of quality. So even though we were starting small and there was always this hunger of increasing the sales, we never tried to compromise on the quality aspect of our product. So we ensured that every vendor that we onboard, we did a thorough inspection. We put in very strict contracts and mechanisms of checking the product every now and then on a audit basis. That ensured that the quality never deteriorated. This led to building of a trust relationship with our customers. So our oldest customer would be as old as the company is. We had about, say, 25 liters of milk would translate to somewhere around 12, 13 customers on day one. Those customers are still with us. Now, value-added services. Now, this is the important part. This is what differentiated us from the competition in the beginning. Value-added services does not just mean customer service. We are talking about customer delight. And customer delight comes from their complaint redressal. As a product as simple as milk, if it gets curdled, if it gets split, there's no one to hear it out. It's just a small piece of, it's just a small product that you can replace easily. So they would just go out and buy another one. But for our product, we give a guarantee that the milk is going to be safe and secure, and you would get the best taste out of it when you buy a product from us. So things like this, immediate response to the customer. Until 1.5 years into the company, we always had the phone with our founders. So obviously the scale is smaller. We're dealing with about 800, 900 families a day, but we never compromised on the quality of customer service. And that led to us building a lot of traction with our customers. Now, most recently in January this year, we merged with 2 other groups. So once we started doing sustainable volumes, we started scaling up. We attracted attention from other investors and other players in this market who had similar backgrounds. So we merged with 2 other companies, one based out of Chandigarh, which is outside Delhi NCR, and the other one within Delhi NCR, who merged into our brand. So now we operate with 2 different brand names, one in Chandigarh called Doozy Farms and the other in Delhi NCR called Happy Nature. So now this conglomerate or this new company has achieved some good milestones. So 24 liters on 24th October, these figures play a very important role in our journey. That was day 1. We ended up with 500 liters in January 2019. And from there to 2000 liters today in June 2020 is where we stand. And that's a revenue that we've been hoping to achieve, that gives a stable break-even point for our business, a stable cash flow. Customer satisfaction, as I said, was the key for us. We have always, responded to them. They have been giving us feedback. They've loved our product offerings. We have moved out from milk into many other products. And as we go along the way, we are trying to expand geographies. We are trying to move out of tier 1 cities to tier 2. We are trying to develop more stronger ties with our production source, our vendors, trying to get more products. We have a new category of products coming up, which are geocentric, which basically means that there are specific food products essentially from certain regions of the country, which you do not get in your daily average grocery store. So we're trying to get those, forming stronger ties, leveraging our infrastructure that is already in place. And another important thing that we figured is necessary for any industry to grow is forming partnerships. So since as I said, that is 70% of the market was unorganized, there were just 7 or 8 players. We started a consortium of sorts where we have invited all our competition. We formed a group called Premium Milk Brands Association. And now this group basically acts as a check for any new entrant entering into this domain, kind of certifies it and grants it the authenticity of supplying the quality that the customer is expecting when they buy a premium product like ours. So there's another quote that has gone a long way into our journey. There are 3 responses to our product: yes, no, and wow. Wow is what we aim for. And that's what I learned at AIM as well. There's just superlatives in life. And this is the product portfolio that I have today. Milk, the bottle that you see there being the primary one. We have 3 more in the pipeline coming out this week. 2 of them dairy, 1 non-dairy. And that's where we stand. I guess it would be helpful for us to scale further and turn more profits this year.
Parth, can you have a look at your lovely face?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not able to see the word camera. Let me just turn it on.
You should know the person behind the product, right?
Thank you. Yeah, you can see my face now.
Right, still happy nature.
Yeah, I think that's because of the slides.
So you can stop sharing the screen.
Right. Hey, Pat, that was awesome. Wow. And your products look fantastic. I actually did send out a link to a bunch of friends in that area. Hopefully, you'll get from 2,000 liters to 2,005 liters because it's one of the messages I passed on.
Thank you.
I think again, just trying to get a sense both from the DNA perspective and from the business. Let me start with you from the business side. This seems like a big set of, from a supply chain point of view, the complexity of getting into a business space like this, and obviously as you add on a whole bunch of new products, the issue of having trust and then managing that complexity. Is this what you went in with, or does this evolve? When you first started the venture, I know you wanted to start with milk, but now you've got this whole portfolio. Just walk us through that whole. How did you think you'll get your arms around the supply chain complexities to hold on to the trust factor, and what was your initial thinking? How has it evolved right now?
That's an excellent question, George. I think it will expound on both the aspects of my business. So there is the front-end supply chain or the logistics, which is one of the most essential or the most time-consuming part of our business, wherein you have the products coming in early in the morning and you need to get them in that same state to the customers. So we need to maintain a cold chain for most of our products, such as dairy. So we invested in setting up infrastructure around it, getting insulated bags, training the delivery boys, having multiple delivery boys on the same route and not going for some outsourced logistic partner who didn't really care about the timing of delivery and the quality in which the state in which the product is being delivered. So that essentially created some efficiencies towards how the product is reaching the customer. Now, another important part, or rather, a point that we always make sure was adhered to was we never over-ordered. We only ordered the product from our suppliers, which were already sold. So we picked the order one day in prior, and we were mostly encouraging subscription model, so as to minimize the inventory cost and minimize wastage, especially in a perishable product market such as ours. Milk goes bad in like 4 to 5 hours. You can't really store milk unless you have a freezer, and that defeats our concept of farm fresh within 12 hours of delivery, the product. So that's on the front end. In terms of how did I get my hands around the vendors and how did I go and convince them to not play around with the quality, that was a tricky part. So we, as I said, we started with milk, and getting in touch with people who were like-minded was a challenge. We scotched the whole city for people who were doing something similar, who had the infrastructure to support the quality that we were expecting. We ended up finding one, but the premium that they were charging was too much for us. But we still continued with it. We still burned a little cash and carried on for 6-7 months until we got a stable volume, which helped us in investing a little bit towards the back end as well. So now we own 2 processing plants set up in multiple locations in Delhi NCR, which helps us in maintaining a strict check on the quality of product, quality of packing, and other milk products that are being used there. So that's how we get them. Another way that we do this is we travel to far out villages where you have these self-motivated self-help groups or NGOs who work with farmers and ensure that the product quality is not compromised, eliminate the middleman, which is the oldest trick in the book, and we get them a fair price and get the best quality product out there.
Hey, going on to this whole DNA of the entrepreneur piece, if you had, when you were in Singapore and you had this idea of starting a business, was this plan there on paper? I mean, had you put thoughts to this is what I'm going to do, or did you chuck it all up and figure out what you wanted to do? And if I may ask, like, what was that initial business plan that you had, and what is it now? And what is the change from your startup idea to where you are now and how you're thinking today? How much changed and how much is the same?
True. All right. So yeah, I guess that's quite inherent to every startup story of moving from where they actually wanted to start and then being in a place where you never thought of in the beginning. Uh, the devil lies in the detail in this case, I would say, George. So we did put a lot of thought into what we wanted to do back when I was doing consulting along with my friend. We ended up doing a research of various industries for over a period of 7-8 months. Now that is not solely dedicated to we were also working and we had hectic schedules, but we did explore a lot of industries. We don't come from a traditional business background. This was the first venture that we were trying to formulate out of thin air. So we ended up doing a lot of research. We figured this is a big market, a big opportunity that has been left unexplored, and there were just a few players. You don't even want to get into an industry which doesn't have any competition because probably it's not the right one. But that kind of told us this was the right place to start. Now, from where we started, we wanted to be a small player solely focused on milk because we thought it would consume a lot of our time and energy, and rightly it did consume a lot of time in figuring out the supply chain, figuring out the sources, getting the logistics of delivery in place, because we didn't have any kind of option to outsource any of it. So it did take up a lot of time, but we realized that a daily commodity doesn't give you enough margins to keep growing. It doesn't give you enough cash flow. So we started, exploring other products, and we kind of formulated this idea of a breakfast basket, which any product that I felt that I would want along with my milk. I felt one day that bread would be a good condiment to go with the milk. So we started figuring out where are the local bakers, where is the artisanal baker. Let me get him on board my platform. We never wanted to become a multi-brand outlet or an e-commerce mall. We always maintained the brand Happy Nature because that's what we sell. We sell quality assurance. So we never got any other brand to come on board our platform, but we did expand our portfolio. And today we are standing at 10 different SKUs, 10 various products across multiple lines, not only milk, which is basically a new, a concept which we never realized we sort of went that way. And it has helped us get a very stable base and a good profit margin out of it. So milk acts as a base to get into the household, and then you have other products that flow through with it.
Hey, I think that's super smart. One, you were very clear that your proposition is trust, and milk was that, got you that foot in the door in terms of proving the credentials. But then in terms of this, I think there was a question on focus and differentiation. You're showing consumer focus, which is customer focus. And with that one customer, once I build trust, what else can I deliver with the same level of trust? And so go deep. And obviously things like, customer service and attention to, responding to them, all that must be a big factor that kind of is a multiplier of that trust. So clearly super, super inspiring to hear your story. This is awesome. All right, I think there's a whole bunch of questions.
George, I think MP wants to ask a question. MP, I'll unmute you. One question, because there are many questions lined up. So one question. Yeah, MP, unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks. It's good knowing your story, Parth. I'm very impressed. I have a couple of questions. How much was your background, where you were raised, that determined the choice of the product finally when you launched yourself in the business? Milk. Why milk? Why not something else like farm products, say, like fresh vegetables or something else? Because milk was very perishable, highly perishable commodity. Unless, of course, you were driven by the motive of profit, margins, whatever it was. And how much of that was because of your own background? Are you from Delhi, northern?
Yes. So sir, I'm based out of Delhi. I was born in Uttar Pradesh, but I've moved to Delhi. I did my schooling in Delhi, and so also my engineering and my initial work experience. So that definitely added a huge input into where I wanted to start off. But going for milk was not based on my background or any such credentials. So I didn't have any experience. In fact, I'm a person who doesn't even drink milk. I've never had a sip of my product, but I'm sure of its quality because we get that tested on scientific parameters. And my partner is an avid taster, so that kind of helped us narrow down the suppliers. But I'll tell you the story behind why we chose milk. So we decided to go head down into research. We figured out every consumable that we can see. We went in for food products. We thought we'll source local delicacies from various regions of India, bring it on a platform and serve it out. We went to water. Why not maybe set up a drinking water plant and start there. I walked around the hallway of my office in PwC. I very clearly remember this. And I talked to 10 people just at random and asked them that, there's this brand which sells milk, which sells water. Now, which is the more likely of the two products that you were willing to try? Milk turned out to be much easier to sell as compared to any of the other ones, because there was always this apprehension around what they were getting in that packet of Amul or Mother Dairy that they bought every day. And during that phase where we were almost finalizing on whether we should go for goat milk, whether we should go for cow's milk, there was this report which was published by the government of India, which kind of clarified that there's 60% adulteration going on in the market right now. So that kind of gave us the opportunity to bank on and start something which was in need at this point of time. And North India specifically, being from where I am, this was a huge problem. So we thought, why not capitalize on it? Why not get in there and actually genuinely solve this problem by bringing in the best quality product to our customers?
Which is going to be the next brand of yours, next kind of product of yours to be the big ticket?
So we have 3 in place right now. We have curd coming in, which has been in demand from, as I said, our ears are always on the ground. Yeah, so we'll complete the whole gamut of products which are milk based, because we have invested in a processing plant now. So we'll start to manufacture our own units there, and in hope for better margins, of course. Apart from that, we are looking at this geo-tagged production line. So we are looking at products specific to regions, as I mentioned. So like there's a specific spice which you get in the Northeast, which might not be very easily available in Delhi or NCR. And we would try to source that and tag it under Happy Nature geo products. So that's the line that we are trying to explore.
Excellent.
All right. Hey, there's the chat line's obviously buzzing with questions. I'm going to try and make sure we can cover as many as possible and maybe combine a few. So I'm not going to go question by question, but I think one of the interesting ones is, this whole thing of skill set and how much of your past experiences, Apurva, you had great time with the company, like with Coke. Parth, you were an engineer. I mean, you were a consultant working with, top consulting firms. And how much of that helped you guys, or you learned what not to do by working with those firms? And I think there's a related question on, you all have a core functionality, which is you're an engineer, and then when you have a business, you have to understand quality and tax and financials and things like that. So how did you, out of your core competence area of expertise, how did you learn some other stuff? So if you can combine those two, Apurva, first to you, and then Parth, you can answer the same question.
Yeah. So I think, like I mentioned earlier, working in different environments in different size of companies, what it helped me do was to, get this exposure to different sort of environments. And again, it goes back to my very important key learning, which I had shared earlier, is that when you do your own business and when you do your own startup, you don't have the resources and the money and the infrastructure to try multiple things. So these things basically help me eliminate the things that I did not want to do and sort of help me prioritize the things that I wanted to do in my own venture.
Parth?
Parth, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, this host needs to allow me to unmute. Yes. So yeah, I guess my background in consult. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
All right, perfect. So my background in consulting, basically being an industry which is driven on research, we sell intellect, we sell ideas and plans and strategies. I got an opportunity to traverse around in various domains, whether it is how the government function, whether it is a coal mining industry, in banking, so many different various industries that we would research about, understand the business model. So that kind of gave me the knack of understanding what works and what not. Also, the experience that AIM gave me with so many different ventures, so many different business competitions, with experts giving their comments on what will work, what will not work. That kind of built up into a lot of things that I knew would not work. Now, that basically translated into deciding which product to launch, and diving head on into a product such as milk, which I had no experience with earlier to that.
All right. Hey, obviously a big question that everyone getting into an entrepreneur world, is funding, right? And maybe there's a related behavioral thing of being. I know you both kind of touched on it in your talk, but hey, the corporate world is it's a huge comfort zone. You're very comfortable where you are, so you need a trigger to break you out. And I know some of that you touched on your talks, but then there's this big thing of funding. I mean, do you feel uncomfortable till you secure the funding? It seems like you guys took the risk that you had to take. So talk us through that. How did you break out of the comfort zone, and how do you deal with this issue of startup funding, and how are you going to make wages for the team and all that? Do you get that out of the way, or do you figure out as you go?
I'll take that first. Maybe Apurva can join later then. So basically for us, George, we were completely bootstrapped. As I mentioned, we didn't put in a lot of research into presenting our ideas and trying to generate an angel fund or something before we stopped working. We felt that we had enough savings, and thankfully, by God's grace, we had families who were supportive enough to allow us to chase this particular need to own the entire process end to end of executing our strategies. After that belief that, I don't have any liabilities right now or any responsibilities to cover, which need me to particularly work, I felt the only thing left was just taking the plunge and being confident in the education or the exposure that we have received throughout. So continuing from the experience that I had working in the industry to what I learned in my business school, I felt this was the right moment for me to capitalize on it. At 28 years of age, I felt, let's go and do it. If it's now, it's much better. It's much more safer in terms of I had more room to fail and try and do different things. As far as the second part of your question is concerned, the cash flow was a problem. When you're bootstrapping, you are always worried about how you're going to pay your employees. You have to forget about everything else and just focus on your employees, because they are one of your biggest assets. Your customers definitely are the best thing that you can have, but your employees are what actually make you work and make you tick. So we figured it along the way, because we were not really actively seeking anything. But the thing that we were very confident or sure of in the beginning itself was that we wanted to start with a product-focused approach. We did not want to build a concept. We did not want to build a new product or a new idea that might catch up in the months to come, because we didn't have the cash to burn for months. So we went in for a very tried and tested product. We just said that, pay us for the quality assurance that we bring in. That's our value add. And we made people believe that.
So Parth, if I may just press on that, so in October, you were with your own funds, right? Everything was self-funded. When did, at any point of time, when did you get,
Until January 28th, 2020, that's when we merged with the other two groups. So the one of those two groups brought in the cash, the other one gave us their customers, and we picked up the entire operations for them. So right now, me and my partner, we manage the entire Delhi NCR region. We got some funds to set up operational bases, not really offices, but we have 3 different operational units where we have a staff strength of about 50-60 employees who are working in logistics and management. And that is what we utilize that fund for. So it's not necessarily an investment, rather a buy-in from them. And right now what we are investing on is distributorship. So that's also getting in some kind of investment for us, but not really the investment that we are talking about when we talk about VCs or equity.
Apurva, what about you?
So I think in our case, funds were we were very clear from day zero that funds were very important. And luckily we were able to get funding pre-revenue. So before we launched the product in the market, we were able to raise funds from global institutional investors, venture funds, which are recognized VCs. And I think it's very important to raise funds because most importantly, like I mentioned earlier, that it's not about like you as an entrepreneur, you need to plan for your success and not your failure. So if the product is a hit and if things are going well, how do you scale from there? And you will only get maybe, you know, one chance or two chances to scale. And at that point of time, you need to have those resources in place. So we were able to do that and pre-revenue and raise some cash, which has actually helped us. But during these COVID times also, we have been able to not like retain 100% of our employees, and we have been able to come back to same revenue levels post COVID. So funds are important, I think, and how you build and how you utilize it is very important.
Hey, if you look at both your, Apurva, maybe I'll just add some a question before I move on to the next one, which is from the Hector Beverages. I mean, because this one is a new idea that you're coming up with, but how was that funding play out for Hector? So I can just, that was an ongoing enterprise you joined at the startup phase. How did funding get managed for Hector?
So when we launched Paperboard, prior to Paperboard, we were selling Zynga, and when like during the first year, we went and listed ourselves on the airlines and all the modern trade, and definitely we got recognized. And around 1 year later, we were able to secure a very good institutional fund as a part of Series A. And from there we went on. So
prior to that, it was entrepreneur funding.
No, not really. We were funded by angel investors. We were Footprint Ventures, Catamaran Ventures, which was Mr. N.R. Narayan Murthy's fund. So Catamaran, Footprint Ventures, and other small angel investors had invested. And during the Series A funding, Sequoia, Hill House, Sofina, these kind of global VCs came forward and invested further.
Hey, there's a question earlier on in the thing on, you know, again going back to the DNA and the personality of you guys. Who are the entrepreneurs that you have looked up, got inspired by? I know you mentioned companies like Uber and all that, but who are the people who've inspired you as leaders in this entrepreneur space?
I think in my case, I am a lot inspired by like Mr. Ratan Tata and then Narayan Murthy, Mr. Narayan Murthy. I just feel that the kind of people first mindset that they have is something I really resonate well with, because I don't know, it is just the focus on people and on nation building and the development, and you know that entrepreneur should mean something, and you should be able to, via your venture, you should be able to bring more opportunities for others. So I think my inspiration are people like these.
Well, honestly speaking, I've never really thought of finding an inspiration as such, because I feel it's all around us. Even people who are working are entrepreneurs in certain ways. When I was employed, I used to feel like an entrepreneur on success of every project that I did. They carry a lot of burden on their shoulders. So for me, an inspiration would be, in this particular case, my parents, because they allowed me to, be in a state or be in a position where I went ahead and, actually had the opportunity to start something of my own. So they led their entrepreneurial journey into making me someone who had this opportunity. I guess that's pretty much some inspiration to take from.
Nikhil?
Yeah, I just would like to call Joe Maxasai. Joe, I'm trying to unmute you. Joe? Just a second. Joe, hi Joe. Hi, Joe. Just to give you a background, guys, Joe Mack is a Master of Entrepreneurship 2001 and is the owner of Potato Corner. You guys, when you were in the Philippines, you might have heard about Potato Corner. And Joe is entrepreneur par excellence who started his work at Wendy's behind the counter. So it's a really self-made story. So that's why I wanted Joe to share his thoughts or views. Joe, is your mic on, Joe?
It is, Nikhil. Thank you.
Yeah. Can we see your lovely face, Joe?
Sure. Hey, hi, everybody. Good to see you
Hi,
all.
Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, fellow alumni. Well, I just wanna congratulate Apurva and Parth on your success. I think what you're doing is very good. And what I like to share with you really is, although Potato Corner is Potato Corner, no? And we were lucky just to put up Potato Corner here in the Philippines, and now we're all in 14 countries already. So we're a global brand already. But the issue now is we'd like to diversify. And we always kind of get it wrong. So what I want to actually learn from Apurva and from Parth is your process, how you came up with new products and these new brands. In fact, I'm maybe I could invite you to be our consultant so that we can document your process and the system that you use to develop these new products and new brand, because I can surely use all the help I can, no, for that. And maybe there's also I can see a way to bring your products global. And for the funding, I think it's very important that, I mean, you don't need a lot of capital, no, on your own capital, because there is what you call a hybrid franchising system. It's a cross between a franchise and a distribution system, and using licensing also. Maybe we can talk about that, and maybe I can help you expand your business in India and globally using that method, where you use other people's capital. Thank you.
The reason why, one more quality of a successful entrepreneur, his middle name is humility.
Yeah,
And that personifies Joe Mack. So much humility. So that's the reason I got him in, because this is one quality. When you guys go 10 years successful, I mean, how he is, you should also remain grounded. It's just a suggestion. Yeah, George, go ahead.
No, I was going to, you absolutely nailed exactly the same quality. The word that as soon as I heard Joe, that's what came to my mind. Here's someone who's in multiple countries with successful business and saying, I'd like to learn from others. That's just, I think that's very much core to the competency of successful entrepreneurs. So great to hear from you, Joe. And Apurva, Parth, any response to Joe?
I'd like to barter with these two entrepreneurs. You teach me what you know, and I'll teach you what I know. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah. So, George, you want to go ahead with any other questions there?
Yeah, I think there are two or three areas that seem to be there. One is how do you define your competition and like is this being who are you really taking this business away from? And as you think of that, and do you worry about the giants in the space that could come and therefore play a very different game and not a level playing field for a startup? So how do you see competition, especially from the large scale players in this spaces that you're getting into?
I think competition for us, we have, anything that is being consumed is typically our competition, is how we like to think about it. But more specifically, we want to look at market leaders, because you get to learn a lot from them. So Lay's, ITC, like Pepsico, ITC, they have their own brands. You have Lay's, you have Bingo, and there is a lot to learn from what is happening in that space. And in terms of competition, I think from a bigger company, I think, George, you can help me out there, because at least what I have seen in a system like Coca-Cola is that new products, etc., they have very, very low salience. so it doesn't get the required focus, the new upcoming brand. So I'm not too sure if we should be really, and especially at our stage when we are so young in the business, we are not very worried about new companies coming in. Maybe a couple of years later, when we get to some scale, 100, 200, 300 CR, at that point of time, maybe, that will become more, that will become a very important parameter factor.
But you were also entering a space with, the mother dairies and Amul and everything else. So how did you think about potential challenges of them wielding their muscle and blocking?
Yep. So, George, as I pointed out, right, so the organized dairy sector is about 30% of this billion-dollar industry. And we were entering into the unorganized part. We were dealing with the farmers directly. So we never looked at Amul or Mother Dairy as our competitors because, we were into a premium brand where we were offering a lot more service along with just the delivery of milk. That was one. Apart from that, the biggest challenge that this industry, this premium milks industry is facing right now is customer education. And with new entrants, there's a very low barrier to entry in this process. But milk being a commodity with very low margins, it's the survival that is the challenge. So now we feel that, with new players coming in, we actually encourage them, give them counseling, give them consulting as much as we can help so that, they are able to go out there and expand the pie for us, move the 70% of unorganized into somewhat organized and clean up the mess, which actually will help us also grow as a group. So very nascent stage, 10 to 15 competitors. We feel every new challenge, every new competitor is an opportunity for us to expand further.
Yeah, I like the way both of you articulated that, having a niche that the big companies sometimes can't focus on it. And so you're super focused on the area that you want to get into.
Absolutely.
And then I think Parth, your thing of new entrants. So one is existing players from a competition point of view. You blocked it out by being focused on your niche and doing better. But the other one is new entrants and, creating that consolidation of a community where you guys are now collectively certifying some standards. That's a great way of, almost like a judo style of using competitive forces as a positive to actually raise the profile of the fragmented segment and bring order into this fragmented space and allow everyone to grow, right? I think that's a great way of dealing a competitive force. One of the questions we've had is on what advice would you have? Like if somebody here on this call today has got this idea and they want to, and they probably are stuck in a comfort zone or they have an idea and they're worried about failure, what advice would you have in terms of structuring their approach to take the leap into this world?
Should I go first?
Parth, let's start with you on this one.
Sure. So I feel, George, I would definitely want the individual to have some experience behind their back, understand how the industry works, how other opportunities that they have in front of them will pan out for them. I'm not a big fan of going directly with the instinct and, just jumping straight up into getting down with the business. If you have an idea, think it through, plan it out, maybe get some experience with other competitors or other companies working in the domain. Even if you don't get that, get some advice from good mentors and plan out your business so that because most of these businesses, most of these startups will go through this up and down, a lean phase, a heavy phase where you would be forced to reconsider your decision. I feel it is better and you are mentally and physically better prepared to handle such challenges if you know what alternatives you have. So I would say you need to sit down and plan your strategy of what you're going to do with the next 5 to 10 years of your life before you actually start an idea.
Apurva?
I think it's very important that if somebody has an idea, then you should typically try and get a co-founder in, because eventually you will be selling your products to your consumers. And before you sell it to your consumers, to your distributors, why don't you try and sell your idea to a co-founder and get one person on board? So that is, I think, a very important way of understanding that if people are taking to your ideas. And And essentially, you will need people. Like you need people in the co-found. You need like-minded people, and definitely having a team definitely helps a lot. So if somebody has an idea, I would suggest that you should find at least one more like-minded person to join your idea, because it's a great ratification and it really helps in all your brainstorming, and a lot of discussions become very meaningful.
Hey, Nikhil, can you unmute the two professors? I'd love to get their views.
So for a change, we will cold call the professors. So Jumbo, you go first.
Me?
With your, yes, that's it.
I actually have had a question here for Apurva and for Parth. Essentially, okay, if a young man or woman approaches you and they want your advice because they want to be an entrepreneur, and they're thinking they've got a great concept for a startup or for a product, and they're asking you, should they go for an MBA at this point, or should they just go and do it? Just get on with it. What do you think?
Well, for me, I would say MBA is the basic that you need to have to start a business or to run a business. It's not going to be like, I have a problem coming up and today I'm going to use pestle analysis to solve this problem. That's not how it works. The whole experience that you get with 60 other people who are sitting in that case room with you, talking about different problems, that gives you a perspective of how to approach problems. And MBA, just consolidates years and years of experience into that, that tenure of your course, and prepares you for so many different challenges that you might end up facing. It would not give you a 100% guarantee of successfully running your business, but it would prepare you for most of the outcomes that are bound to happen through this journey of your venture. So I feel MBA is absolutely critical to run any business. You might have a brilliant idea. I mean, even for ideas where people just go head in and just start off without doing the background research, I feel MBA would definitely prepare you to escalate much faster, grow much faster, and most importantly, for me at least, plan your risks better.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Apurva?
Professor, can I start by saying it depends?
Of course. That's the AIM answer.
Yeah. So for me, I think I would say that an MBA is definitely a big advantage. So, but also timing is important. So if you're able to, if you're able to get a degree, MBA degree under your belt, it is only going to be a plus. But if you have a great idea and if you're very confident, like I said earlier, timing is very critical for an entrepreneur. So if you have something going, the timing is right, I think you should go ahead with it.
Okay. Well, let's hear from Professor Roman, who actually ran the Master in Entrepreneurship program for a while.
Right. Okay. Well, I was gonna do something else. Okay, let me answer that question and make it more current. I've been talking to some people in AIM. I've retired, but I'm talking to some people in AIM. And for one thing, as you probably know, the program runway is getting shorter and shorter. And one of the things that's coming out, which is still being discussed, is what does a particular student need, given that the runway is short, a lot of the learning you get might be obsolete within a short period of time. So for example, just an example, an extreme example, right now we're getting a lot of young MBAs. So do they really need to get strategic management? They're not going to become CEOs anytime soon. On the other hand, the Master of Enterprise program, these people want to be able to set up businesses quickly, and they're not likely to be, they're not likely to be heading General Motors anytime soon. So I think there's now a case where, given the short runway, there's a closer look at what it is that people need given their state in their career. There's a new program called MSIB, Innovation and Business. And really, these people just want to generate new ideas. They're not into the the corporate or organizational structure. So I think that to follow up on Junbo's question, I think if somebody were to go to AIM now, he will, I think, find something, well, not now, maybe in the next year or so, he might find it more specific and more relevant and more timely. So that's kind of a plug for AIM. However, the question I really wanted to ask you, which is a comment, which leads to a question. I've only been attending maybe 2 or 3 of your FAIM meetings, mainly because I'm not an AIM alumnus, as you know, like Junbo. But I was sufficiently impressed to think about maybe you might want to consider expanding your reach by designing something much shorter, let's say a 15-minute YouTube type video, wherein you can have a title like entrepreneurship in the global era, and then you can have a series. And I was listening to our 2 speakers, and I was trying to figure out, you could actually structure it into a script. You know, the entrepreneurial journey, which is what Professor Morato gives, and then the challenges and the lessons learned. You did this, of course, it takes a lot more time than just assembling 60 people and having them chat, but we know that this is being recorded, and maybe it is possible that we may want to start trying to script something that might expand your reach. At the very least, although I don't know if AIM's going to pay for it, you could come up with short videos, put them together, and submit them to the AIM entrepreneurship program so they can have new cases that they can use. So that's kind of what I was thinking about, and it's maybe just food for thought. But I think what you've been talking about is refreshing enough and possibly interesting enough so that not only the alumni would be interested, but other people. And quite frankly, if you look at this COVID era, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing research on, I can now find on the web. So for example, I'm going to be teaching in a couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about the death of malls. You can get that on the web. I'm going to be talking about working from home. I've got perspectives from Japan, Korea, and the United States. So all of this comes from just going to the web, and I think we can make use of it. You know, if you have your first web series, you can count on the alumni to act as trolls and hit a lot of like buttons, so then we can build momentum. Oh, sorry, by the way, are there any Indonesians here?
Yeah, there are.
Okay, I just, about 6 years ago, I wrote a case on Gojek Indonesia. I interviewed Nadia Makarim. I don't know if you guys in Indonesia know him. No Indonesians?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm right. Based on written materials, I'm writing a 2020 update on Gojek Indonesia. The problems they're having. Imagine they're a motorcycle company providing service, and now you've got COVID doesn't exist, which makes it difficult. So I think there's a lot that can be learned from the web. That's my point, and I think you can contribute to it. So anyway, maybe I've talked too much already, but on that point, it's kind of food for thought. Maybe you can think about some future webinar wherein you can actually record it in such a way that you can dissect 30 to 40-minute talk and Q&A, a short 15 minutes. Remember, attention span is very small in the web. Okay, sorry, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor. I think Nikhil, food for thought on having a series on video and things like that. Hey, there are a lot of questions that have come specific to, like, you know, how did you source the milk and stuff. So I'd urge the people who've asked those questions to find a way to connect directly. And Nikhil, maybe everyone has access to, I don't know if the biodatas have their emails, but there are people who are in the dairy space and might pick some specific little details from Parth they can do offline versus on the group. First of all, I am absolutely inspired by listening to you guys. I mean, I think we kicked it off today by talking by the quote from Professor Mato would talk about, the DNA of entrepreneur, that everybody needs to be, have that DNA spirit, even if you're caught up in the corporate world or whether you're, starting your own business. That spirit of entrepreneurship is something that's core to leadership. And I think that kind of set the tone on why all of us were listening to you today. Apurva, your story was fabulous. I mean, just seeing how you, even from that little scrappy little shop to growing into more spaces and then thinking about going into retail and then bumping into someone who's got a similar idea and joining the company. I just think there's so much entrepreneurship all along that journey. And then bringing entrepreneurship into a company, I work in that same space and I can understand how difficult it is to bring new thinking and entrepreneurship around, things that are small in very large spaces. And then now carrying it through to, selling your idea, finding investors against an idea, which again, sounds like a very interesting space. And Parth, your story is also just fabulous in terms of how you, that picture that you had with the 24 liters on day one. I think that picture is going to be, a famous picture sometime because it's almost like somebody's garage, right? And the branding that you have and the concept that you have, this whole thing of building trust and starting with something and then figuring out how to go further. And I think you've got a niche going in terms of you've got a customer and now you're going to sell them the whole basket. It's fascinating how you've got there. So really inspiring to hear both your stories. I'm sure there's going to be others who will reach out to you for input along the way. What I took away, if I might, summarize some themes that I'm carrying back with me, is certainly, apart from having the DNA, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, whatever idea you get into, I think both of you are very clear about sizing it and being very clear about the sub-segment you're putting in, and being very clear about what proposition you're going to bring into that space and why it's differentiated from anyone else. And I think there was, both of you very, without talking to each other, talked about size. Size is important, growth is important, and what are you bringing to the table is important. So that's starting. Then I think both of you also called out what will it take to succeed. And I guess part because your business is already going, you brought out a lot more details around the things that building that trust and making your proposition stand out and building a subscription base with customers. And I think Apurva, you talked about funding, make sure that you have the funding resources, that someone is bought into your idea so that you can have what you need. And there was a question around when do you scale, and if you have the funding, then timing is very important. At the time that you have a chance to scale, you must be able to scale, and so funding is pretty clear. I think you both talked about refining as you go. All your initial ideas don't turn out to be reality. That came through loud and clear. Network and collaboration. A lot of what has happened is because of you're talking to a bunch of people. I think your two businesses that you merged with Parth have a lot to do with that. I think the people you got funding from Apurva all came from a network and a collaboration and nurturing this whole thing of being in the network. And I'd add one element that I look at, even in a big company, at the end of the day, people invest in people, right? Investors invest in people. I think you both came across as people who have the credibility and the personal passion that others will put money into. I think that is a big part of being an entrepreneur, right? You even within a big company, when people come up with an idea and they ask for budgets, ideas are one thing, but then you've got to really believe in the people who are asking for that idea and the fact that they will be good custodians of it. And lastly, humility. I think Joe just absolutely nailed it with that question for the success that he's had. And talking to you, the humility that, in the question that he placed, I think that is a key element to entrepreneurship as well, right? You never think you're too big, always keep learning, always keep listening, And if someone can add value to you, it's only going to make you better. There's no pride in saying, I know everything. So that was a lot for me. I don't know if I've captured everything, but this was awesome. So thank you again, Apurva. Thank you, Parth. Thank you, Nikhil, for creating the opportunity, and thank you for everyone for making the time and joining this. Over to you, Nikhil.
Thank you, George. Professor Frankie, the topic which you talked about, the YouTube thing, whatever webinars we had, Alumni Association of India have recorded all the webinars until today, and there is a digital library of all the webinars which are there on YouTube. So this is a digital library which we have created, and I'm proud that the Alumni Association of India is the only association which has created a database of all the 36 webinars, including the virtual home which we had. So regarding YouTube video, it's a good thought, but as you know, this is a social organization. We do this when we get the time to give back to the alumni cause. In the end, in India, there are 3 rivers. There is Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, and something they meet at Allahabad, which is called a Triveni Sangam. I would like to put it in the context of this today. You have Apurva and Birendra apart, who are the young lot, who are one stream. Then you have the middle level, which is George Cohort and Joe Maxisai. Both have had a very great innings, and they're doing fantastic and so humble. When we talk about Joe Maxisai's humility, I mean, George Cohort is nothing less. At 6 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, he is there for the alumni cause. And then we have the patriarch, the Bhishma Pitama, which is Jumbo, and Frankie Roman. That is the Gomukh, from where we all came, our knowledge came and everything. So this is a fantastic webinar, and thank you all for joining in. And our next webinar, as you know, that Alumni Association of India always tries to set benchmarks. So the next webinar would be a woman power webinar. We would have a couple or a trio of women talking about their entrepreneurship, and I would request all of you to please come in sizable numbers, and we will have these webinars on a regular basis twice a month. And thank you so much everybody for joining in, and until next time, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.